Afternoon. I'm delighted to welcome all of you to Global Ties Alabama's partnership in hosting the Reach HBCU Global Institute, and the fact that we have collaborated with our Global Perspectives Institute. So we really put two institutes together, and we're so thankful that all of you have signed on. We're especially appreciative of our speakers. And this is just a major collaboration in focusing on world religions and their spring celebrations. As we travel around the world and experience different cultures, we will learn about different faith communities. This is extremely important as we have launched our HBCU Global Institute, because we are encouraging students who attend the HBCUs in the state of Alabama to learn more about the international footprint, global diplomacy, and international careers. And certainly one of the issues that they will face, either for themselves personally or as they travel to different countries, they will encounter different religions, different communities of faith. We really don't have to travel outside of the US to do that, and today's Global Perspectives Institute will demonstrate that clearly, because even within our communities here in the state of Alabama, throughout the US, we encounter different faith communities. Today's moderator is a good friend. Actually, I told somebody earlier today that he is one of our angels, Cooper Green. Cooper is the community service ministry leader for the Interfaith Mission Service. When you try to ask him about what he does, he says, "I am a volunteer." And you'll learn a little bit more about him. He's a former newspaper executive. And I didn't know until today that he relocated from Birmingham to Huntsville, about 6-7 years ago. But he is a community organizer, full-time volunteer, and he prides himself on focusing on social justice issues, including poverty, racial equity, diversity, inclusion, and immigrant rights. And so it is an honor for me to introduce to you Cooper Green, who will serve as today's moderator. By the way, he was named in 2016 as the United Way of Madison County's Volunteer of the Year. So ladies and gentlemen, Cooper Green.
Thank you, Jackie. I don't know where you got that, but you've done your homework. Welcome everyone to today's event. I'd like to extend a special welcome to those who are attending as part of this week's Reach HBCU Global Institute Conference. Thank you all for joining us. Jackie asked me to introduce myself and say a few words, but I'm going to repeat what she said. I'm Cooper Green. I'm a retired newspaper executive, and for the last several years, I've served the Huntsville community as a full-time volunteer, working with Interfaith Mission Service, or as it's known locally, IMS. My own passions, as described on my Facebook page, are diversity, equity, inclusion, immigrant rights, and racial justice, which all dovetail with IMS's mission of building a beloved community. IMS is a cooperative of faith congregations founded in 1969 to build bridges of understanding among people of different faiths and to work together to address unmet social service needs in our community. Our goals were then and continue to be interfaith understanding and cooperation, racial equity, social justice, and community service. Proud of our legacy, during the last 52 years, IMS has started many local initiatives which, when they matured, were spun off as independent 501c3 nonprofits. Today, we're honored to partner with Global Ties Global Perspective Institute to present world religions and their spring holiday celebrations. With us as speakers today are Rabbi Eric Burke of Temple B'nai Shalom, Dr., and forgive me if I mispronounce any of these names, Narayana Bhatt of the University of Alabama, Huntsville, Dr. Carlton Bird of Oakwood University Church, Miss Olga Osadchi, Maslanitsa organizer, and Mr. Ashfaq Tawfiq of the Birmingham Islamic Society. Thank you all for joining us today and agreeing to be part of this presentation. We're honored to have you all with us. Before we begin, let's pause for a moment of reflection and inspiration. For creation and for our being, we give thanks. For all of us who came together today to share in this time of fellowship and peace, we give thanks. Today, may we be open to one another's ideas and beliefs and respectful of our differences, not threatened by them. May we grow in our understanding of each other. May we see what is truly important and what unites us. We ask a blessing on this time together so we may find the wisdom and strength to serve one another and the world. Amen. Audience members, if you would please post any questions you may have in the chat box, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end. We may even open it up just for open to town hall discussion. Speakers, if you will, please limit your remarks to 5 or 6 minutes each so that we'll have time to hear from everyone. Thank you. We'll start with Rabbi Burke. Please enlighten us about Judaism's spring faith traditions.
Certainly. I'm Rabbi Eric Burke of Temple B'nai Shalom in Huntsville, Alabama. We're located downtown. I'm really privileged and honored to have been asked to participate in this wonderful event. Moved here about 2.5 years ago with my wife. We moved here from Los Angeles, where I worked in hospice and served a small congregation outside of Los Angeles. Very happy and glad to be in Huntsville. So it's true, the Jewish people just concluded their celebration of Passover, which is an 8-day holiday that falls in the spring every year. It's a biblical holiday, so its basis is found first in Exodus, the book of Exodus. And Passover involves gathering in homes, and surveys and studies have shown to some conclusive point that Passover is probably the most celebrated Jewish holiday. Something like 8 out of 10 Jewish people celebrate Passover. And we wondered why that could be. Probably because a Jewish person doesn't have to go to synagogue or a temple to celebrate Passover. It's home-based. It's done at home around the dinner table, where we have something called a Seder, which is a meal, and we use what's called a Haggadah, which means the telling, and it tells the story of the Exodus. And then it involves, as many holiday celebrations do, cross-culturally, food. Although in Passover, the food is not just eaten, it's also symbolic. So for example, we have perhaps the most famous food associated with Passover, the symbolic food of matzah, unleavened bread. So for example, matzah is an interesting symbol because it's paradoxical in that it represents slavery, and that's what we believe our Jewish ancestors were made to subside on, unleavened bread, because it's cheap and very filling. But we also read in Exodus that when they were finally freed, there was not enough time for their bread to rise, and they had to leave in haste. And so it also symbolizes freedom. So matzah, the symbol of poverty and affliction, and also freedom. Passover celebrates liberation. And in Judaism, we believe that questions are essential, and questions are related to Passover in the following way. Not only as part of the Passover Seder, built in are questions asked to children and children asked to parents, but we believe that, in my understanding, that when we ask who or what is a slave, because we're talking about liberation from slavery, at its most basic elemental level, a slave is someone who is not allowed to ask. And as Jews, questions equal freedom. The more questions, the more freedom. And so Passover Seder's are meant to be full of questions and questioning. Why did this happen? How could this still be happening? For example, there's a statement in the Passover Haggadah that says, "This year we are slaves." Now, Jews have been saying this for thousands of years when we felt oppressed, we were oppressed, and even today when we are certainly not oppressed or persecuted, or it's definitely not slaves. So what could this possibly mean? Well, perhaps because yesterday, memory makes yesterday real for us today. And we are slaves today because today there are still people in chains around the world, and no one can be truly free while others are in chains. We're slaves because freedom means more than broken chains. Freedom isn't free. I've had any number of veterans tell me this. Freedom isn't free. In Judaism, freedom isn't just being free, but freedom to serve, to worship, to be, in our case, Jewish. And to be Jewish is to stand up for those who are downtrodden, those who are society's more or most vulnerable. In the Bible's language, the orphan, the widow. As long as there are those who are persecuted and prejudiced against, discriminated against, how could there be freedom? How could we celebrate being truly free? And so we say this year we are slaves. I thought I might also share with you that the connection of Passover to spring. So yes, it always falls in the spring, and it's spring is often a time, right, of celebration of liberty, festivals of liberty. It's not, though, a deity or a god who's liberated at the festival of spring in Judaism. It's not a resurrection of a deity in spring. However, in our national consciousness as Jews, we've connected the liberation of nature, that is spring itself, with the liberation of the nation, with the Exodus from Egypt. So it's a festival of freedom. And so we celebrate what it is to be free, what it means to be free, and the obligations therein. I thought I might share with you in conclusion a teaching that I shared with my congregation this past Friday night in the form of a sermon. And in it, I quoted a rabbi from the late 1700s in Eastern Europe who taught the following: the Exodus from Egypt occurs in every human being, in every era, in every year, and even on every day. The Exodus from Egypt occurs in every human being, in every era, in every year, and even on every day. So there's something global, universal, human about the story of the Exodus from a Jewish perspective. So we might ask ourselves, how are we embarking on our Exodus, whether it's yearly, even daily? And we might also ask, if indeed we do have a personal Exodus from which to free ourselves and embark upon, who might we be freeing ourselves, or what might we be freeing ourselves from? In other words, who are our pharaohs today, internally, externally, and how can we free ourselves? And once we are free, to what end do we pursue that freedom? And who and what do we serve? Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Rabbi Burke. Now we'll hear from Dr. Bhatt. Please tell us about Hinduism's spring traditions.
Yes, sure. Yeah. I am Narayan Bhatt, and professionally, I am a research scientist at UAH, but I do not represent UAH today. My field of study is astrophysics. I was actually a former secretary of the Hindu Cultural Center of North Alabama here in Madison. Okay, let me share my screen, which I wanted to show you. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Sorry, I got the wrong one. Okay, so let me start with a couple of slides about Hinduism. Hinduism is one of the oldest religions known to humanity, the religion of the Indian people mostly, and gave birth to Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism. Its main philosophy is tolerance and diversity, and it believes in truth is one, paths are many. It regards all the other religions as different paths to reach the one truth. Many deities, but a single impersonal ultimate reality called Brahman. A philosophy and a way of life focused on this, both on this world and beyond. There is no proselytization, no conversion, just a way of life. There is no clear date of origin for Hinduism. That's why it is not considered as a religion. The authors of the sacred texts, namely the Vedas, are largely unknown. There are no dogmas forced upon the followers. Instead, they are encouraged to ask questions, question the scriptures, and find answers in them. Hence, it is not a faith. So it developed as a righteous way of life and is being constantly refined based on the experiences. Hence, the name is the eternal righteous way of life, or Sanatana Dharma in Sanskrit. There is no ecclesiastical authority controlling the followers like the Church of Rome for Catholics. Always welcomed noble ideas and thoughts from any corner and accepted them, leading to constant refinement of the religion itself. Most importantly, religious recommendations are constantly changing with time. Now let me come to some of the important festivals that are celebrated in the month of spring. We typically think of spring bringing with it a sense of rejuvenation and coming back to life after the winter. However, in the vast nation of India, where the climate has 6 seasons, each of 2 months long, unlike the West, we have 4 seasons. Those 6 seasons are pre-winter, winter, spring, summer, monsoon, and autumn. So the spring in India runs from around mid-February to mid-April. So it is also known as Vasant in Sanskrit, or in some parts of the country, it's also called Basant. Now let me start with the first festival, that is Vasant Panchami. This basically signifies the beginning of spring according to Hindu conventions. And the Vasant or Basant marks the beginning of the spring on the Hindu calendar and is considered to be an auspicious day for new beginnings, such as starting a new business, getting married, holding a housewarming ceremony, or any other such important work. So this year, it was on the February 16th of 2021. Next is the more well-known festival called Holi. This festival is one of the best well-known outside India, and it is often referred to as the festival of colors. People celebrate by joyously throwing colored powder on each other and squirting each other with the water guns. At the end of the day, everyone is covered with brightly colored powders and water. So these fun activities are related to Lord Krishna, a reincarnation of Lord Vishnu, who is the universal sustainer, who like to play pranks on the village girls by drenching them in water and colors. The festival is also centered around the story of the demoness Holika, who was burned to death with the help of Lord Vishnu. Holi signifies triumph of good over evil. It is the day to forgive and make peace with everyone around us. Holi is also a festival, harvest festival, and marks the arrival of spring and the end of winter. This year, Holi was celebrated on 28th March. Next is the Yugadi. So Yugadi itself means, Yuga means a year, Adi means beginning. It is a New Year celebration, and depending on the type of calendar you follow, it falls in September, sorry, in spring. And for those who follow the lunar calendar, it falls in March, and those who follow the solar calendar, it happens to be on the 14th of April every year. And Yugadi is another New Year festival that falls, okay, I already said that. It also marks the beginning of a new year mostly in the Deccan region, particularly in the states of Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka. So there are several rituals one follows, but then that ritual, it depends on which part of the country you come from. Next is another important festival called Ram Navami. You know, as Ram is the Lord Rama, he is considered to be one of the incarnations of Lord Vishnu, which I mentioned earlier. And this is the day he was born. So it is celebrated almost throughout the country. And there are lots of things one can learn from the life of Rama, which is summarized in the epic called Ramayana. Next, I'll come to some of the regional festivals. This is the festival called Chigmo. Also, it's also called Shishirotsav. It is mostly celebrated in the western coast of South India called Goa. You might have heard of a play in a coastal town called Goa. And it is the biggest festival in that region. It starts on the day after Holi and concludes on the Gudi Padwa or the Yugadi, which I mentioned just before. The first day of Hindu New Year, that is the Yugadi. So it is widely performed one of the performances is the martial art on the horseback. You can see the simulated horses are shown here, and also you can see various kinds of colorful dances and festivals during this celebration. Next is the Ninmara Valangi Vela. It is also a regional festival mostly celebrated in the southern state of Kerala. And the festival is held after the paddy harvest. And states is in a particular part of the state called Palakkad. It features two neighboring villages competing with each other to put on best display of traditional art forms and percussion music performances. You can see how the elephants are elaborately decorated. And then this year it happened to be on the 3rd of April. Next is Vasant Navaratri. Navaratri literally means 9 nights, where during these 9 nights, the various forms of goddess Durga or the consort of Lord Shiva are celebrated, as shown here. It's also very, very colorful and also very religious. And one of the two, there are 2 Navaratris in the year. One comes in the spring, that's why it's called Chaitra Navaratri, and one comes in October, just before Diwali. So it starts on the day of the Hindu lunisolar calendar on the new moon following the equinox, and is known as the Holy 9 Nights of Spring. The festival is mainly celebrated in North India. This spring Navaratri is mostly celebrated in North India, whereas the other Navaratri that happens in October is celebrated almost everywhere in the country. Next is the Baishakhi. Baishakhi is a different name for Yugadi, that is it happens on the April 14th. And it is also a New Year festival mostly celebrated in the northwest Indian state of Punjab. And you can see it's also called Vaishakhi or Baishakhi, celebrated in the agricultural state. The festival is particularly significant because it also commemorates the founding of Khalsa, the Sikh religion brotherhood. It's also known as the Sikh New Year. And next one is called Bohag Bihu. It is one of the festivals, spring festivals that is celebrated in the northeastern state of Assam. Bihu is the main festival of Assam in the northeast India. This agricultural festival happens 3 times a year, but the prominent one happens in the spring, known as the Bohag Bihu or Rangoli Bihu. Starts on the sidereal equinox day of April 14th. So as you can see, there are various kinds of festivals. This is only a selected festivals. There are many more which I haven't gone through. So since the country of India is so diverse, each state has its own culture and food and things like that. So each state can be considered as a different country. So in different states, different festivals are celebrated in different ways, and many different types of festivals are celebrated. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bhatt. That's fascinating. I had no idea that Hindus celebrated as many festivals. If that schedule continues throughout the year, it seems like they're either in the midst of or preparing for festivals pretty much continuously.
Yeah, it does. Yes.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll hear from Dr. Bird. Please tell us about the Seventh-day Adventist Christian spring traditions.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you, Cooper, for that introduction. And also I want to thank Jackie Scheit, Mrs. Scheit, for the privilege of being able to share with all of you. What a great experience for us all as we all learn and grow together. Thank you for this opportunity. I am privileged to have served and am serving as a Seventh-day Adventist pastor for the past 26 years. 9 of them at the Oakwood University Church, which is on the campus of Oakwood University here in Huntsville, Alabama. Oakwood University, ironically, as we're discussing this afternoon, is an HBCU, is an historically Black college and university. So I'm privileged to be able to share. Husband of one wife, Danielle and I have been married 23 years. We have 3 lovely children. We have a daughter who is a sophomore at Oakwood University. She's 20. We have another daughter who is a senior in our Oakwood Adventist Academy High School. She's 18. And then the Lord has blessed us with a little one. She's age 7, and she is a first grader at Oakwood Adventist Elementary School. And so we have one in college, one in high school, and one in elementary. During the springtime of the year within our faith group, Seventh-day Adventism, which is a part of the greater Christian community, the Easter period is very, very important to us. Now, as we know in the Christian community, we believe Jesus Christ is our founder of our Christian church, and we are followers of Christ. And so with that, the Easter celebration or Easter holiday, as you know, commemorates Christ's death, burial, and resurrection. And because of his resurrection, we believe one day very soon when Jesus comes back and returns, that those who have fallen asleep in him will be resurrected and we will live eternally with him. In the Christian community, as many of you know, the time of this year, Ash Wednesday, 40 days Ash Wednesday leading up to Easter, excluding Sundays. We recognize this is a period of fasting, a period of prayer. Within the Seventh-day Adventist community, however, it's a little different. There is not much attention given to, if you will, Ash Wednesday or Palm Sunday, because within the Seventh-day Adventist tradition, we see Saturdays, the period, 24-hour period from sunset Friday to sunset Saturday as our Sabbath. So we don't necessarily get heavy involved in Ash Wednesday or Palm Sunday, Fat Tuesday, and these different things. We do, however, still acknowledge and celebrate Jesus' resurrection. Specifically within the Adventist context, Easter weekend has always been one of gathering, particularly in the Huntsville community, and most Seventh-day Adventists in Huntsville are connected some way with Oakwood University. And Oakwood University on its calendar has made Easter weekend its homecoming weekend. The past 2 Easters, however, it has not really been the same because of the COVID environment and COVID space that we find ourselves with, because traditionally we go down to the Von Braun Civic Center and we have a big gathering and we celebrate Easter, but also homecoming weekend for Oakwood. But the good news is With every crisis, I believe it's a vortex of an opportunity. And so over the past 2 years with the coronavirus pandemic, we have really been able to hone in and focus in on the spiritual and religious aspect of the Easter holiday, with specificity to the fact of Christ's resurrection. And so with that, we don't necessarily get too involved as Seventh-day Adventists in the Easter bunnies or Easter eggs or whatnot, but we place great emphasis during this time of year, the springtime, on Christ's resurrection. And that's rooted in the fact of John 3:16, a very familiar text. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. With Christ's sacrifice, with Christ's resurrection, we believe we have life, and one day we will live with Christ forever throughout the ceaseless ages of eternity. And so we are Christian, we are Seventh-day Adventists, and as Seventh-day Adventists, not as many festivals, not as many traditions, not even specificity to a diet per se with what would transpire during the Easter time, but more focused on Christ's resurrection.
Thank you, Dr. Bird.
You're very welcome.
Ms. Osachi, please tell us about Maslenitsa, the Eastern Slavic religious and folk tradition that I suspect many of us have never heard of before. This will be new to most of us, I assume. I look forward to hearing about it.
Oh, gladly will share with all of you. And first of all, I would like to say a big thank you for inviting me to Jackie Shipe and Kezia Daniels, especially because this year we were not able to organize a big celebration of Maslenitsa in Huntsville and Madison area just because of COVID. I had a special pleasure to go through the pictures from the previous years and to remember how we celebrated it. Kezia will show some pictures from our previous editions of the festival. We organized our spring festival Maslenitsa for the past 10 years in Huntsville and Madison. And for those who did not have a chance to attend it or hear about that, hopefully we'll be able to invite you next year to join us and learn more about the celebration. I would like to say initially that it is not a religious holiday anymore, even though in the 16th century it was incorporated in Orthodox Church. This celebration is traditional in Eastern Europe, especially in Slavic countries like Russia, Ukraine. But because of the 50 years, more than 50 years of Soviet times, when 15 countries lived together as one, we used to celebrate every year Maslenitsa all together, even people who are not Slavic, even people who are not Orthodox. So as a consequence of that, we have 15 countries from the former Soviet Union who know all about Maslenitsa and who just enjoy the celebration. As you know, in Slavic countries, winters are very long and very cold. In old times, when they do not have enough crops to last the whole long winter, people in the spring were very worried about the early come of the spring because they do not have enough food and they do not have enough logs to keep them warm and fed, during the cold beginning of the spring. And this celebration is actually the welcoming of spring. After very long winters, people were trying to invite spring to come as soon as possible. In organizing this festival, they kind of tried to be friendly to spring, hoping that this kind of symbol would be something that would bring spring quicker. And the symbol of Maslenitsa is a beautiful round yellow crepe, like a pancake, big pancake, crepe from the French tradition, they also are big on crepes. And the crepe is the meaning, actually a symbol for sun. Yeah, so eating crepes and making a lot of crepes it actually had a sense of a sun that would warm up the land, and the trees and plants will start growing, and we will be able to have again a source of food and warmth to be able to live. This celebration is usually celebrated differently every year. It depends on the time where Easter in Orthodox tradition is celebrated, and usually last week before the Lent that comes before Easter starts. This is when people celebrate Maslenitsa, and during Maslenitsa, it's a week of partying, eating everything that will not be permitted during the Lent, like butter, milk, and other products, animal-based products. So people would be ready, would empty everything they have in their houses, and they will be ready for 40 days of Lent that will end up in celebration of Easter. Usually people will celebrate outside in the cold, in the snow. People would jump in the icy lakes. People would be not very well dressed and trying to compete between them in a very cold weather. Hot tea and crepes, this is what would keep them warm and well outside in the cold weather. In some of the movies, old movies, we even can see some bears who would be attending also festival among people, and everyone would enjoy and have fun. And then when the week ends, starting from Monday, people will start Lent. So no partying will be allowed anymore, no animal-based food, and for 40 days, people will be fasting and praying in anticipation of Easter celebration. This is all about the tradition, and I'd like to mention a few words about the beautiful pictures you can see on the screen. Every of those pictures, it's a beautiful memory for me, and makes my heart jump out of my body. So we celebrate Maslenitsa for 10 years in Huntsville, Madison area, and local people had a chance to attend it and enjoy it together with us. And this is always was a beautiful way to teach our children who never had a chance to participate at this festival in Eastern Europe or Central Asia. So they have a chance to grow together with this festival. And even looking at the pictures, I realized that my kids, they grew from year to year in the pictures from this festival. So my oldest son, who is singing on the stage in one of those pictures, today he's a senior at high school. During the festival, we have a lot of traditional dance and music, and it's not coming just from Slavic countries, it's coming from all 15 countries of the former Soviet Union. And the main idea to organize this festival here was not exactly to present Maslenitsa festival like it happens in Russia or Ukraine, or it was more or less to represent all 15 countries of the former Soviet Union, because every single time someone would introduce himself, I'm from Georgia, I'm from Kazakhstan, I'm from Kyrgyzstan, people tend to believe we're all from Russia. And culture-wise, we are very, very different people. So we have different religions, we have different holidays, we have different languages, even different alphabets. And the old culture, every one of those 15 cultures are very, very old cultures. They have centuries and centuries. It's just beautiful to show the difference between each of them and celebrate each other and get all together, because at this point, what connects all of us, all those people from all those 15 countries, just some memories from the Soviet period. Not that we enjoyed it that much, but we used to live together and we still speak the same language. If you mention different things that were characteristic for that period of time, all of us, it doesn't matter if we're from Ukraine or Kazakhstan, we understand exactly what we're talking about. And every of us is very proud to represent their heritage to the people who are interested in cultures and who want to learn more about us. So this is what we do in Huntsville, Madison. Hopefully next year the station will be different and we'll be able to resume our festival, and we'll be delighted to serve you with beautiful crepes, with lovely music. And if you'll be ready, we'll invite to join us in dance. So this is all from me, and if you'll have questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Ms. Osadchi. That's fascinating. I'm embarrassed to say that this is the first I've heard about this local celebration, and I kind of pride myself on keeping up with what's going on out there in our diverse community. So I'll look forward to and keep an eye out for it happening next year, and hopefully have the opportunity to join y'all.
Thank you.
Lastly, but certainly not least, is Mr. Tawfiq from the Birmingham Islamic Center. Look forward to hearing about Islamic spring traditions and celebration, please.
In the name of Almighty Lord, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Let me get to the speaker's view. Am I not? I'm not. Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay.
Yes.
There is. I'll spend a minute or so just giving an overview of Islam and Muslims. Islam is a faith that is a continuation of a message that was given by all prophets, starting from Adam, Abraham, Noah, John the Baptist, Jesus, Moses, peace be upon them all, of worshiping one God. The divinity only belongs to one God, and therefore we do not associate any partners with Allah. There are 5 obligatory acts that this faith is, the practice of this faith is built upon, and then there the articles of faith: believing in one God, believing in messengers, believing in angels, believing in the day of judgment, believing in the unseen. So these are all the articles. The creed aspect of it, the obligatory worship aspect, are covered in the 5 founding principles, and the 6 articles of faith. There is absolutely, Islam follows lunar month. Lunar year is about 11 days shorter than the solar year, and therefore our holidays, our festivals, our religious worship does not, or religious holidays do not follow any weather cycle, such as spring, summer, and so on and so forth. So it is although a couple of names are in the Islamic calendar are named after spring, but those names were given in the pre-Islamic time. But March, it just coincidentally that in this spring, April 13th, we are going to be welcoming the month of Ramadan, the 9th month of the Islamic calendar, where Muslims, all adult sane Muslims, are required to fast from dawn to dusk. From dawn to dawn. A lot of people mistaken it by saying from sunrise to sunset. It is actually dawn, which is about hour and 15 minutes before sunrise, and we fast from food, drink, and nothing by mouth. Nothing by mouth is taken. So that is the aspect of the month of Ramadan, which could be 29 days or 30 days. And once the things open up, we welcome people to come and celebrate Ramadan with us by having a iftar, which is a fast breaking at sunset, the Maghrib time. Ramadan is a month of fasting, as Quran says that the fasting was prescribed upon you as it was prescribed upon people before you. And when Quran says people before you, meaning Christians and Jews, so that you may become God conscious. So one of the major purpose of the month of Ramadan for Muslims to achieve is by the end of 29 days that we have become more mindful of the pleasure of the things that we need to do to gain pleasure of God, and to avoid and to completely eliminate from our life the things that earns the anger of our Lord. So that's one very, very important objective of month of Ramadan for the Muslims is to gain God consciousness, be mindful of God, and hopefully, God willing, that carries with us through the entire next 11 months, and then we come back to Ramadan. So it's got a rejuvenation of our faith, rejuvenation of our commitment to God's pleasure. There are two other places that another two purpose. One is defined so that you may become thankful. So when you do not eat or drink anything, we aspire to remember those people, as Rabbi Eric mentioned earlier, to think about those people, to help those people who in the world do not have for months what we eat in one meal sometimes. And not in the world, but right here in our city, in our state, in our country. So this becomes a time of reflection, to become thankful and grateful to Almighty God of what God has bestowed upon us. The third is so that we make, and these are the three references in the Quran, is so that you may become rightly guided. So by the end of the month, I am praying that I am the one who is more God conscious. I am praying that I become righteous in my deeds, in my thoughts, in my dealings with other people, and then I become grateful and thankful to Almighty Lord of what He has bestowed upon us. So the month of Ramadan is not only for hunger and thirst, although that's part of it, but it is about these three aspects that the God consciousness that throughout the month, sins that are one's habit in the other months should be, because you're fasting all day long and you say, well, I'm fasting and God is watching me, and although God is always watching over you, then you avoid those sins. You engage in more communal prayers. And before I go into that, let me say Ramadan is also a month in which the Quran, the noble book of Islam, was revealed. So it is the month of the Quran, and Muslims all over the world in the communal late night prayer. It's a communal late night prayer. It could be done at home also. In voluntary communal late night prayer called Taraweeh, where many places the entire Quran is read in those 29 or 30 days. So and there are millions and millions of people in this world who have memorized the Quran from the A to Z, from the first alphabet to the last alphabet of the Quran. They have memorized the Quran, and those are the people who get an opportunity to stand and lead the prayers and recite the Quran. And there are several people behind them who are also what we call Hafid, the people who have memorized the Quran and gets an opportunity to revise their Quran. So this is a month of Quran. This is the month where we embrace the teachings of the Quran. We embrace the recitation of the Quran, and then become a reflection of what is expected out of us in the month of Ramadan. Just last note, have got a lot to things cover about Ramadan. It's nothing to do with spring. It comes different times. We love it when it comes in spring because the days are shorter. We don't have to fast that long. but the fasting in June and July are 16, 17 hours fast. So imagine in the hot weather where you are fasting without any water, without any drink, in those long days. So we are thankful to the Ramadan that comes in winter and spring. At the end of the Ramadan, there's a festival called Eid al-Fitr, where we celebrate. You see, every celebration in Islam has got a spiritual aspect. There is a cultural aspect to it. There is food. There is wearing of good clothes, but it starts with early morning prayer. Thank God that today I can eat. So we are thankful to Allah, and then gift giving and taking children out and having family time together is at the end of Ramadan. But it starts. Things to remember is every festival in Islam is preceded, as always has got a spiritual aspect, the worship aspect. And with that, I want to thank you. I didn't introduce myself. My name is Ashfaq Tawfiq. I'm President Emeritus of Birmingham Islamic Society. And like many of you, interfaith and discussion about my faith, being ambassador of my faith is my passion. Thank you.
Thank you. President Emeritus, that sounds like an impressive title. Apparently you're very, very well respected within the Muslim community in Birmingham.
Well, I hope I deserve the good thing that they say about me. I continue to say that may God accept it from me for all the good that I do and forgive me for all things that I don't do things right.
Thank you for being with us. Thank you all for your inspiring enlightenment. I certainly have learned a lot. Do we have any questions from the audience? Do we have any questions from our presenters to the other presenters, perhaps? One thing that I was impressed by was that, and interested in, just an observation, is that many of the faiths don't, unlike Christianity, the faith that I come from, I don't get the sense that there's a strong amount of proselytizing. A couple of you mentioned it, and I know that, or at least I think I know that in Judaism, there's no proselytizing, that you actually have to ask to be invited to be a part of the Jewish congregation. Is that correct, Rabbi?
That's true. That's true. Yeah, proselytization is not a Jewish practice. However, for those folks, who might be interested in converting, it is typically at least a year process that involves a lot of learning and being a part of community functions and events. And you're right. People come to me, so to speak, come to us, as opposed to us going out to them.
I'm also fascinated by, and do I understand correctly, as far as Ramadan goes, that it actually rotates around the calendar, that it's a different month or different period of the year every year? Mr. Tawfiq, if you're speaking, you're muted. Anyway, I will add this, that I have been invited to for their when they break their fast, and when you have that opportunity, I would strongly encourage you to participate, because the food in at least here at the Huntsville Islamic Center is absolutely phenomenal. It's out of this world. It's some of the best that I've ever eaten. But if you go for 12 hours or more, 14 hours without eating, of course, you do look forward to something spectacular. One of my friends Muslim woman says the hardest part for her as an adult is prepare, because the children aren't expected. Children have different appetites and they're growing and what have you, have to be nourished. They're not expected to participate in the day-long fast, and so they're fed. And so the hardest part is when she's preparing food in the afternoon, when she's getting particularly hungry. She feeds the children ahead of time, and the hardest part is to stand there in the kitchen preparing food that she knows she's not going to have an opportunity to eat for several hours. So any questions, comments, concerns? I just want to reiterate our thanks for everybody coming and participating. You all were truly spectacular. Seriously, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I learned from each of you. And I hope to get to know each of you individually as time goes on. I will turn this back over to Jackie and just thank her for the opportunity to serve as today's moderator. It was an honor and a privilege.
Thank you so much, Cooper. And it's interesting because we did receive another statement in the chat from somebody who is a global citizen, someone who has lived and worked around the world. And he said how much he was able to both learn and get a better understanding. I think these types of conversations across faiths is very, very important. And you know, it's interesting because I come out of the corporate sector where we had to accommodate the different faiths, whether it was for Sabbath observers, making sure that work requests accommodated their beliefs, whether it was our Muslim brothers and sisters, we needed to have rooms for them to be able to pray because they pray 3 times during the day. I've seen this in airports. And so being able to both understand, be willing to learn about different customs, traditions, and faiths, I think is incredibly important. And we're thankful for each of our presenters today. Want to just mention to you that the Global Perspectives Institute is a bi-monthly option that we present since we have had to convert to virtual programming. And our next event will be on April 20th, where we will be discussing success characteristics influenced by sports. This is more of a professional development opportunity for our audiences. You can see we have a very diverse panel. Somebody did say to me, well, Jackie, where's the woman? And I said, whoops. But we're going to make sure that we have women in the audience who will be able to interact with our speakers. And we are just hopeful that many of you will join us on April 20th. We also hope that you will continue to join our Reach HBCU sessions. If you sign on to the Zoom call-in information, the next session will be at 2:30, and the focus will be on advice from Caribbean and African diaspora global leaders. It is going to be an incredible session, and we invite you to join us. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for sharing, and for our audience for being with us. Have a wonderful day.